Okay, let's get going. The January 28th, 2022 Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting is now in session. It's noted for the record that commissioners are attending this meeting via a web meeting, and a quorum of commissioners is present for today's meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the internet, and a link is posted on the Oregon Lottery website. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel?
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Here.
Chair Sathoff?
Here. Will the clerk also inform the commission of who else is in the meeting?
Yes, we have Director Pack, Janelle Simmons, Kathy Ortega, Carrie Hemphill, Chris Scaro, Matt Shelby, Mike Wells, Nate Carter, Sar Richards, Ty Calandrello, and Tina Erickson, and Kathy Stromberg.
Thank you, Elisa. Members of the public have the opportunity to provide written public comment to the commission for this meeting. A full copy of the written comments that were received were provided to the commissioners in advance of the meeting and will be posted on the commission meeting website. Will the clerk please share the public comment that was received for the record?
In preparation for this commission meeting, Lottery provided notice to tribal representatives that the draft tribal consultation policy is being presented during today's meeting. The Klamath Falls Chairman, Donald Gentry, submitted a letter to the commission to provide input on the tribal consultation policy. The Klamath tribes are pleased with the efforts and progress that Lottery has made in its development of the draft consultation policy and request that new language be added to create meaningful consultation and improve the diplomatic process. Chair Gentry offered to help craft the new language along with other tribal nations and looks forward to working with the Lottery and strengthening the relationship between our governments. The entire letter was distributed to the commission prior to today's meeting and has been posted on the commission meeting webpage. It will also be entered into the official record. And that was the only comment received.
Thank you, Lisa. With that, let's move to the commissioner communications. And I think probably we would start with just lead off with the audit committee update. Malene, if you could give that.
Yeah. This morning we held our audit committee meeting. We received an update on the enterprise risk management framework. There were 3 risk items that were added to the register as a result of the pandemic and stresses put on the Oregon State Lottery. There are mitigation efforts underway on all of them. The remaining risk statements on the register all have ongoing mitigations plans in place, and several have been closed. We also reviewed the Casino Prohibition Rule Program assessment. This audit concluded that the current framework and process followed by the contracts department met the intent of the Casino Prohibition Rule in the current pandemic environment with decreased sales. However, with the current environment, a number of changes were recommended to ensure appropriate actions are taken to provide reasonable assurance that limited menu retailers and small cafes continue to comply with the updates in the long term. Management agreed to the various recommendations that were made by the internal audit team, which included tighter reporting, expanded analysis, and working closely with the internal audit department over the next year. We also went over the calendar year 2022 audit plan. The plan includes a good mix of items, including security and policy administration reviews, operational reviews related to the modified and new working environment that the lottery is in, and also various consulting engagements throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Malene. Are there any other commissioner communications from anyone on the commission? I have just one comment I wanted to make to the rest of the commission. We're going into, what is it, 2 years? Almost 2.5 years of pandemic contingencies, both in the lottery as well as on the commission. I'm very aware that it's been a long time since any of us have actually been in a room together. I do hope that this year that we have an opportunity that we can actually get together with masked and possibly socially distanced as a commission so that we can have some face-to-face interactions, which I guess I'm old-fashioned enough to believe are still important. The other thing I wanted to say, given this is sort of our first meeting of this not fiscal year, but annual year, 2022, we have a lot of work ahead of us. I know that some of our strategic plans are on pause, but I think you'll soon see from this meeting as well as the next meeting, we have some significant agenda items that the commission needs to take on. Some of it related to the pandemic, but a lot of it ongoing, for example, relationships with our stakeholders, relationships with the legislature that is a stakeholder, as well as the tribes. So I just wanted to make that comment that this is a very important year, I think, anyway. So with that, if we would move to the director's report, Director Pack.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I will start with some general news around the lottery. As in the past, this year we took part in the state's Marine Toys for Tots Toy Drive. And according to our Toy Drive chair, Crystal Smith, Lottery was one of the first agencies to deliver any of their toys to the distribution center. She also added that it's always good to see so many large and small bikes, as well as volunteers working to get things ready for deliveries out into communities. She also gives a big thank you to all the employees who made an online purchase. And I would add my thanks as well for the generosity of our staff throughout all of these giving campaigns. Overall, the 2021 campaign distributed over 34,000 toys and supported more than 4,000 children in the Salem area. Many thanks to all who participated. Earlier this month, we sent an email message to all video lottery retailers, letting them know that due to temporary inventory issues, the lottery is pausing applications for new video lottery retailers, new locations, and new installations at existing retailers at this time. Any pending applicants impacted by this pause will be contacted individually, and this does not impact non-video lottery sales applications. And updates are posted to the Oregon Lottery retailer page as they become available. However, we did propose to allow an exception for tribally owned businesses that apply to sell video lottery games, provided we have sufficient inventory to accommodate the new locations. And this month, I adopted a temporary administrative rule explaining the pause on applications and the exception for certain tribally owned applicants. And as we continue to evaluate our financial capital and inventory posture, I will keep you apprised of this temporary pause. A little good news, we officially launched with DraftKings on January 18th. So DraftKings Sportsbook, the official provider of the Oregon Lottery, is now live and taking new customers as well as transferring customers from the Oregon Lottery Scoreboard app. Congratulations to the launch team for all the hard work. It looks great. Overall, the transition from Scoreboard to the DraftKings platform went well, with overwhelmingly positive feedback from players, and we got it done just in time for the NFL playoffs. Since our product teams are here today with sales updates, I'm going to skip any sales update this month and let them update you later in the agenda. And I will just conclude with a couple of winner stories. First, Jimmy Wilburn Jr., the $50,000 Powerball win. Little did Jimmy Wilburn Jr. know he'd been sitting on a $50,000 Powerball prize for 6 months. Quote, I don't play much, but I knew I had some Powerball tickets in my billfold and I thought I should check them, the Rainier man said. So on January 20th, 2022, Jimmy went to the store to see if he had any winners. Indeed, he did, as one of those tickets that he bought on August 12th, 2021 was a $50,000 winner. He purchased the winning ticket at the Alston Country Store in Rainier. Jimmy's $2 quick pick Powerball ticket was one number off from hitting the $258 million jackpot back on August 14th. I feel so blessed to have won $50,000, said Jimmy. I am just fine with this prize. Jimmy plans to add some tools to his woodworking business and pay some bills. Next, Brandy Fleck. Like many Oregonians, Brandy's mother bought Oregon Lottery scratch-its for her family for the holidays. Quote, she had a stacks of scratch-it tickets for the family to choose from, said Brandy of Eugene. I had won $70 worth of tickets in my stack, so I was pretty happy. When Brandy scratched her last ticket, Ruby Red Sevens, she discovered she'd won the game's top prize of $70,000. Brandy plans to go on a vacation with part of her prize, and Brandy's mother bought her scratch-its at the Walmart on Kings Valley Highway in Dallas. Finally, Stephen L. of Pleasant Hill won the $250,000 second chance prize with his non-winning Cash Attack 2 ticket. Stephen entered his non-winning ticket using the lottery's convenience app, which allows players to scan non-winning tickets to register them to be eligible for second chance prizes. This is an example of how Lottery has been able to use technology to improve the customer experience and make it easier for people like Stephen to win. And that concludes my report for this month. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Barry. Any questions or comments for Director Pack? Hearing none, we'll move to the minutes of the previous commission meeting. The minutes of the previous commission meeting have been circulated to the commission. If there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I move that the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on December 17th, 2021 be approved as final as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. So Ms. Ortega, Kathy, are we ready for a review of the financial statements and the mid-year budget rebalance?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Kathy Ortega, Chief Financial Officer for the Oregon Lottery, and I have a couple of items here for your approval today. The first of which is the monthly and year-to-date operating statement through the end of December, which is our midpoint of the fiscal year. Looking at the results for the month of December, we had net revenue of $118.8 million on a budget of $111.8 million, or a $7 million favorable variance. And I had to chuckle as I looked down the line here. I thought of you, Chair Sathoff, because we actually spent a little of those savings that we've been experiencing today. They are still within, as you will see, budget on a year-to-date basis.
I did notice that. I did notice that. You're right.
I thought of you. We did it for you. And
Thank you.
net profit of $80.7 million on a budget of $73.1 million, $7.6 million favorable. And flipping to the next page, you'll see that we are still within budget, though, on a year-to-date basis, with net revenue of $717.2 million on a budget of $703.5 million, $13.7 million favorable. And on the net profit line, almost $476 million on a budget of $440.8 million, $35 million favorable to budget. Looking at services and supplies, we had a negative variance on a year-to-date basis on intergovernmental charges, and that's primarily being driven by our audit fees being front-loaded towards the front of the year on an actual basis and spread out over the year as on a budgetary basis. I also have the balance sheet for you today as of December 31st. And as is our protocol for the end of a quarter, I've included the capital outlay status report. On an original budget of $33.7 million, we spent 20.8, leaving almost 9 million left to go. And as you look down the column, you'll see that most of the spending, but still some of the remaining variance is primarily in the area of VLTs. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on the financial report.
Questions or comments from the commission on the financial report? Kathy, on the capital outlay, this is not my usual question where I question why we haven't spent any money. I recognize that the spend has really been in the gaming products portfolio, and I applaud that. I think that's probably where it's needed. My question goes to all the other areas, the site services, the human resources, fleet, IT operations, governance, where we haven't spent. Are we thinking that will happen by the end of the year? Are we thinking that for a variety of reasons, maybe pandemic related, we're going to postpone some of that?
I guess my overall reaction to that, Chair Sathoff, is I think it's a mixed bag. I know if I look at some of those projects in site services and within, the areas that I have spending control over, there's going to be some spending there, but you may find a few that get carried into the next year.
Okay. If there are no comments or questions from the rest of the commission, is there a motion to approve the monthly financial statements?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery financial statements for the month ended December 31st, 2021 be approved for the record as presented today.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Kathy, do you want to talk to us about the mid-year budget rebalance?
Yes, I do. So in the material sent out prior to the meeting, I wrote a summary for you of the activities and what the results are. Overall, we have a proposed reduction of expense of 8.9 million. A good portion of that number, about 7.4 million, is project-related expenses that at this point we are thinking is going to get carried over into the fiscal 23 budget. There are some other small areas of increase. We had one of the other areas of decrease are some reductions to game vendor charges that are revised estimates as a result of our new contract with DraftKings. One other item within the context of the mid-year is an amount of money that has been in reserves on our balance sheet, 7.2 million for that had been set aside as a result of the SB Tech contract. And they were cancellation fees in the event we canceled that contract. With the signing of the DK contract, those are released, and we are going to ask through the motion that for permission to transfer that money to reserve for other business needs. And so with that, I'd be happy to go over any questions that you may have on the results of the mid-year activities.
Questions or comments from the commission? Kathy, a couple, first of all, congratulations to the whole team on the DraftKings contract. And frankly, the release of the 7.2 million for cancellation of the SB Tech contract. Nice job by everybody there. When you say that the reduction of expenses, 8.9 million, that much of that are project-related expenses, it sounds like those projects are obviously not being abandoned, but they're going to roll into the next fiscal year. Are there any projects in that category that 81 that dominates? Are they a bunch of different projects that make up the 7.4?
I think, Chair Sathoff, that is really, it isn't one predominant project. I think it's a relook at all of the projects and the net result of where we are in terms of our project timelines and possibly a little bit of the spending, but I couldn't just one thing.
Yeah,
That's
and
okay. Just was checking to see if there was one major project that we should know about.
if I may,
Um,
Madam Chair.
Sure.
Kathy's right. What we did was take a look at where each project was in its implementation, and some of these savings are our beloved timing differences.
Yeah.
You know, we are making progress on a project, but the expenditure may actually not come in this fiscal year. It may come next fiscal year based on procurements and contracts and things like that. While we are saying that a lot of this will likely roll over into next fiscal year, that's certainly true with some of the key systems that we are upgrading and modernizing, as we discussed earlier today, like Dynamics 365, our financial systems, our retail partner management systems, which are at obsolescence. Some of that money is also smaller projects that may get revisited and reprioritized as part of the work you referenced earlier this morning in terms of the work ahead of us as we look to maintain a sustainable VLT ecosystem. We may need to reprioritize some of those. So that will be part of the upcoming budget process.
Great. That's helpful, Barry. And I do think if we can take some money from that and move to our other project on sustainable revenues, I think that would be a great transfer over. I don't have other questions and comments. Anything else from the commission? Okay, is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 22 mid-year budget rebalance?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery Commission approve the changes to the FY22 budget as presented today, including transferring $7.2 million in cancellation fees previously reserved for the SB Tech contract to a reserve account for future business needs.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Southoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Barry. Let's move to the tribal consultation policy and Nat Shelby.
Good morning, Chair Southoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, I'm Matt Shelby, Lottery's Senior Manager for Community and Corporate Engagement. And today I'm here to talk to you about our draft tribal consultation policy. A copy of the policy is in the meeting packet and also available online. I will spare you all reading the whole policy. Today, I'd like to focus a little bit about the high-level goals of what we're trying to accomplish, share with you how we got here, some of our consultation on consultation, and share next steps, and obviously here to answer any questions as well. So key goals of our consultation policy are really strengthening understanding, relationship, and communications channels with Oregon's tribes. We want to build trust, increase transparency, and really make time and space for true engagement and input. Really eliminate surprises. And ultimately, we want to include tribal impact in that calculus you often hear, maximum profit commensurate with the public good. This policy really seeks to ingrain that consideration of tribal impact in all that we do. So how do we do this? The policy clearly defines roles, responsibilities, and commitments on Lottery's side of things. But at the end of the day, it's just a framework. The real magic's in the person-to-person, government-to-government sharing, learning, and engagement that we have already gone through and will continue to in the future. Little bit about how we got here. As I was preparing for the meeting today, I was amazed, but we actually started this work a year ago. Last January, we had a meeting with the Legislative Commission on Indian Services. Figured that we should start with them and take a review on what other agencies have in terms of consultation policies. and steal any good ideas that we could. We had a great meeting there and went to work drafting the first iteration of our policy. We shared it with LCIS in April, got some additional feedback, both on the policy itself, but also on the best way to gain tribal input and consultation on the development of the policy. In June last year, Director Pack sent a letter along with the current draft of the policy out to all tribal chairs asking for feedback. In July, we presented at the Oregon Tribal Gaming Alliance. In October, we presented at an LCIS meeting. And in October, Barry sent another letter out to all tribal chairs with the latest draft, again, asking for feedback, offering consultation. I would mention throughout that process, we did receive a fair amount of both in-person and written feedback on the language itself from tribal representatives and leaders. We engaged in some direct consultation on the policy itself with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde in December. And then just prior to this meeting, we sent the current version of the policy out to tribal leaders a third time, along with notification for the meeting today. And as you heard earlier in the meeting, just this week received some additional feedback from Klamath Tribe with some good input on language. So it's been a real, I would classify it as a robust but experience, and one where I know I have learned a lot along the way. Next steps for this, we hope to finalize the policy for Barry's signature next month. But as I mentioned, the work's never done. We've been meeting with tribal leaders on this policy for the last year, but we've also had several opportunities to kind of practice our consultation around specific issues that are of interest to both lottery and tribes. So I think, like I said, we've learned a lot, and it's just the beginning. Some of the key additions and edits to the policy based on consultation and feedback that we have included are, we clarified the language to ensure adequate time for tribal feedback on the strategic plan before commission consideration. That was always our intent, but we got some good feedback that wasn't exactly clear in the policy itself. We also clarified our intent that the request for consultation was a two-way street. This isn't just lottery determining what we believe is something that may interest the tribes. It's an open invite for tribal representatives and leaders to reach out to us on consultation that they might be seeking. We added some language around the engagement will be unique to each tribe's laws and protocols to the best of our ability. We recognize that each tribe is a sovereign nation, and that it's not, we can't just shoot out one email to a listserv and call it good. It's more than that. We also increased how often lottery will consider partnership opportunities, and added the tribal liaison to the annual visits along with the director. Originally, the offer was to have Director Pack meet with tribes in person on an annual basis. The feedback we got from multiple tribes was that while having a tribal liaison, more of a staff level person identified was a good thing, that position also needed to kind of expand their understanding of not just tribal gaming issues, but just tribal issues writ large, so that position would be better positioned to do their job. As I mentioned, we're hoping to wrap this up next month and have it for Barry's signature. And with that, I am happy to answer or attempt to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments from the commission? Matt, first I want to say that this is hard work. The lottery has, I think, done an amazing job in just a year. I know that sounds like a long time, but in just a year to develop this relationship and develop this to the point that you have people like the Klamath saying, appreciating the work you've done. So I do too. I do have some questions, I think questions I'd like you all to consider. And I want to preface that with how important I think this kind of a documented policy on our relationship is. The issues I see coming that I know you're dealing with, but I'll get to kind of questions I have about the policy itself. But we have to do all of this under the constitutional mandate to maximize profits, commensurate with the public good. I have to say that I guess I previously believed the public good did include the tribes in Oregon, but clearly what we've learned in the last year is that the tribes maybe didn't feel that way as well as others. And we've learned something in that. So again, I do think this will be difficult under that balancing. One question I have, and it may not make sense right now, so don't feel like you have to answer all of this. Just sort of think about it, and maybe for our next meeting. Is there some kind of corresponding commitment that each of the tribes is giving us? We're basically in this policy saying to them, we know how important this relationship is. We believe it's important. These are the things we're committed to do to make sure that we are hearing your input. But it does seem very unilateral because it's our policy, right? I'm just wondering what kind of commitment each of the tribes has made in getting us to this relationship and going forward. Again, you don't have to answer it today, but before we go to approve this on the next meeting, I'd like somebody to address that. The other question I have is the provision where we are going to send the strategic plan to the tribes prior to the commission considering it. I want to clarify, that doesn't mean the commission won't have seen it. We will have seen it. It won't have been, as I take that, we will not have made it public, but we'll send it to the tribes first. My question is not whether we should do that. My question is there any other stakeholder we do that for? And have you considered whether that at that point that's going to broaden and others are going to say we want the same thing? And kind of additionally, that the notice that we're agreeing to with the tribes in several contexts, well, we'll notify them. I didn't understand, does that mean we're going to notify them directly, that the normal notice and public notice that we give under the rules that we're bound by, we're going to do something different? I just wanted to understand what that something is. Are we contacting each tribe? Are we sending the notice to them directly? I'm not weighing in on what that would be. I'm just trying to understand it. Because again, I'm wondering if we will have other stakeholders saying, well, why aren't you doing that for us too? And maybe we want to, I don't know. I'm just wondering if the group's thought about that. And then the only last question I had, sorry, I'm running these all together because Matt, I honestly didn't mean that you would have to answer everyone at this meeting.
It's all good. I'll take the feedback.
Okay. Is this the report? I'm assuming the annual report we're going to do about our government to government activities. That annual report comes to the lottery. Is that right? And we'll be discussing that in a public meeting. That one might be the easy question.
Yes, it would. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, those are about the four questions I had. Feel free to say we'll come back on any of them or not.
Chair Sathoff, again, great feedback. I think, to the first point, it is our policy where we are really formalizing lottery's commitment to consult. Obviously, each tribe has their own compact with the broader state of Oregon and kind of how they operate. But one of the things that Director Pack and I have found over the last year is that there is a real desire to consult, to have two-way communication between lottery and the tribe. So while this particular policy, obviously just kind of obligates lottery, I am not concerned as I sit here today about tribal participation and willingness to lean in as well. So we have had, I think we are building good lines of communication on that front. So obviously we're in a unique situation, and that at times we are in a competitive posture. And so, lottery is kind of unique in that situation relative to other state agencies. And we recognize that. The tribal folks that I've spoken with recognize that too. So it's, I think it's a place where we recognize that we won't always come to agreement on a path forward. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't seek to understand and to share. So
that's really important. And on that first one, let me just give an example of commitment. I recognize that much of this is a one-way. We're committing to them. But so if we consult, and I think I saw something in here that we're supposed to give them a reasonable amount of time. They are 9 separate entities, and a commitment from them might be, I guess I'm trying to figure out if we don't get all 9 at a certain point making comments, or we have vast disagreements between the 9, at what point do we move on, but we say we met our commitment? Do you know what I mean? And I'm not, again, you don't need to answer. I think that's one of the issues when I think in terms of what commitments can they make, would be along those lines. But
I think, Chair Southhoff, I think you've touched on kind of the biggest challenge in all of this. And I alluded to, our work is never done, and it truly never is. And that will be kind of what we strive for. And but yeah, recognizing that there may be times when a universal consensus is not a thing that's possible. But to the next point on the strategic plan, that was some language we actually changed up a little bit, and based on your input, we might clarify a little bit more. But yeah, our intent is for commissioners to not be surprised by the strategic plan, and that we would obviously share it with you all prior to sharing with external stakeholders. But I think the original language that we had in the policy in the draft, the first draft, was something along the lines of that it would be shared with tribes prior to approval. And some of the feedback we got was, I'm not sure if you meant it this way, but you could meet the letter of that policy by sending it to us the day before the commission meeting when commissioners were voting to approve. And that's not, true engagement consultation. So we tried, and that was not our intent, but tried to clarify it a little bit more so that we are committing to show our cards and with enough time for tribes to actually kind of take that input, put some thought into it, and then give us some feedback, so that when we come to the commission in an official capacity with a strategic plan and you all ask, what do Oregon's tribes think about what's in here? We can actually say with a straight face that we asked, and we can tell you what the feedback was. So
great.
And then on the notice, yeah, we are committing to additional efforts beyond just the required notice to interested parties. So we are talking about as a specific tribal communication or communication to tribal leaders and representatives, letting them know what the administrative rule that we're considering is, or what the policy choice that we're considering is. So it would be an additional piece.
And I have no issue with that. My issue really was, will that open the door? And if it does, how you're going to deal with other stakeholders, special interest groups coming in and saying, we want the same treatment. And maybe you're going to say they, for whatever reason, legally, they don't. I realize legally they don't get that same treatment, but it's really more practical business and political question than a legal question.
Absolutely. And I think that for just speaking off the cuff, for me, the biggest difference between an interest group and a representative of an Oregon tribe is that the tribal consultation is sovereign to sovereign consultation. It's more than an external community stakeholder.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious. But I really appreciate you answering those questions for me, Matt. I still say that the difficulty in this is going to be balancing our desire, our true desire to work well with the tribes and the constitutional mandate. So we'll see. I commend, again, I'm just going to say I commend all of you. It's really, actually, it's great work. And I'm in a year's time is frankly record.
Well, thank you.
I believe, unless there are any other questions for Matt on the tribal policy, we'll move to staff updates. Any other questions from the commission on the tribal policy that we'll hear again at our next meeting? Okay, hearing none. Shall we move to staff updates? And at least my agenda says that's going to be Tina, Carrie, Sarah, and Kathy.
Good morning, Chair Sadoff and Director Pack and the Commission. For the record, this is Kathy Stromberg, and I'm the Corporate Affairs Officer here at the Lottery. And today is our Q2 business update for the team. And but before we get into product updates, we thought, given that it was the end of a calendar year, it was a great opportunity to maybe just share a few numbers with the commission on what 2021 looked like. We come every quarter and talk about product updates, but there's so much that goes into getting to that end goal that we all have in generating the revenue for all of our great programs. So I'm going to take a few minutes and give that update, and then I'm going to turn it over to Sar and Carrie and Tina for product updates. So a year in review. So again, this is looking at the last calendar year, and we just really, I'm not going to read, you're going to get overwhelmed by a lot of numbers on the page. And really the objective is for you to just maybe pause and think about how much goes into what we end up delivering to the state. So first of all, let's start with our customers, always a good place. We continue to have just very, very high favorability with Oregonians, and we continue to see the highest level that we've had on the appropriateness of the state using this kind of a method for collecting revenues. And the really nice thing, I think, that plays into why the favorability is so high, the team has done such a lovely job over the last few years in really promoting where the money goes. And we have very high awareness, and we continue to work to get that awareness so people really do connect the funding to things that Oregonians care about. Let's switch here a little bit and talk about.
Kathy,
Yeah.
just one question. You're on the 77% is really amazing to me. I wish the appropriate dollars was a little higher, but frankly, 59 is great. Are these metrics and analysis? Is this stuff that we share at the appropriate time with the legislature?
Well, this is, well, Matt, do you want to talk a little bit? You've got several different programs to proactively do more, not only with the legislature, but with the problem gambling community. We work really with all the beneficiaries a lot to be sharing this kind of information. So I think the short answer is yes, but we're actually doing a lot more this year to proactively share out things like this.
Great. You don't have to do more. I think these are great. This is great information. And when we hear a lot of criticism about the lottery, that's why I just think it may be important to share it. So don't let me take you off task. Go forward. Sorry.
No, that's absolutely, you're absolutely right. And we are seeing a trend. We just, these are tracking studies that we do annually. We just actually received back a digital study to look at digital trends with Oregonians and trying to understand what they like about the lottery and what they'd like to see. So all of these studies and information at the high level that really talk about what Oregonians think will continue to make sure that we're communicating to all of our stakeholders. So let's talk a little bit. Last year we had, we were still in a crazy year. For half that year, people claimed their prizes by having to mail in, which they were not happy about. And we heard a lot about that. The team, the claim center team, as well as many people across the lottery worked to get us open again. And since we reopened, we are processing over 300 claims a day. The other thing that we're seeing is satisfaction, and we're doing ongoing surveys, but we have a very high 4.88 out of a scale of 5. So that is really high satisfaction with people when they do touch and claim their prizes. And then finally, that really translated in over 11 billion in prize payouts. So some record numbers across the board. So switching to all the games, you're going to get detailed updates today on Q2, but starting with video, of all our top sales weeks ever since we started Video Lottery, 42 of those weeks of best sales came last year. So we're hitting it out of the park. Scratch-Its, it's nice to see almost 55 million tickets that were sold last year. We also, when you look at Scoreboard, on crazy things like a Super Bowl coin toss, which is, yes, it's something you can bet on, 3,500 people wagered on the outcome of that toss. And then you see on the far right, a lot of record highs in our jackpot games, and with Mega Millions being at over a top jackpot of $1 billion. So a lot of activity there. Let's switch and talk about our app, which we put together a few years ago, and it was really about how do we give Oregonians a better engagement and interaction with the lottery. We have over 600,000 registered users on that app. 213,000 of them came last year. We added a feature where you could scan your tickets. 25 million tickets were scanned on that app, and it continues to grow. In fact, I was on a call this morning looking at monthly numbers, and we're seeing all kinds of trends, and we're able to start to really look at different campaigns and programs that we're doing and which ones do Oregonians like and not like. So we make sure we continue to give them the things that that are most important to them. Second chance drawing, another thing that we added for if you didn't win on the first try with your scratch it tickets, we had over 12 million people, applicants for that particular game. And then 7 out of 10 users, again, we're always looking at how satisfied they are, feel like their experience is excellent to very good. Responsible gaming, which is something really near and dear to our hearts, and we continue to make sure it's so integrated in everything we do. Almost 3,300 calls to helpline. We spent over $2 million just in promoting and building awareness for the program. And we have high awareness among Oregonians, which was something very important that we focused on last year regarding problem gambling and what they can do if they think they're in need. And those scratch it tickets that I talked about, on every one of them, we have a message around responsible gaming and problem gambling. So we continue to look for opportunities to make sure that we're getting the message out to all of our players. Retail, we couldn't do it without our retailers, and our retailers really went through a lot over the last couple of years. Our gaming operations team continues to do an amazing job to make sure that our retailers are taken care of. 71,000 interactions with our retail sales channel group. Almost 130,000 calls were fielded from either customers or our retailers with our hotline team. And from a support perspective, we continue to have high awareness or high satisfaction at 95%. And then service calls and preventative maintenance continue to be a very important focus for the team, and over 22,000 service calls last year. So that's a lot of people running around the state, making sure that we're supporting and helping our retailers, especially in these challenging times. Then finally, it doesn't stop there. Commissions with our retailers, over 300 million was paid out. Our HR team has been really busy making sure that we can continue to support by having people in spots. And so they had over 732 job applications, which resulted in 42 new hires. Contracts and security was very, very busy with a little under 400 applications processed. We continue to work on background checks that have to be done, which ends up being a lot of things. And then our IT department had over almost 19,000 service requests and resolutions to keep all our technology running, so the team could do all this great work. So as they say, it takes a village, and I think we're all pretty darn proud of the organization for doing all this and continuing to keep all of our modernization efforts going at the same time. So that's kind of an overview and a look back. Any questions?
Kathy, I don't have any questions, but I just am thrilled and encourage the group. This kind of, no pun intended, scoreboard for what we do, and as you say here on this slide, taking care of business is, I think, really important for us to, it's a feel good, but it also is really important for us to kind of keep track of what we're doing and how much we do. And, year over year or quarter over quarter, it helps us understand too, whether we have to improve something. So I have been consistently for years asking for metrics. You guys have consistently come through to give me the metrics I've been looking for on things. This is another level. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments from anyone else in the commission? Do you want to go ahead and then move to the product
Yes.
updates?
So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Tina, I believe.
Good morning, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Tina Erickson, and I am the manager over the lottery product portfolio for the Oregon Lottery. So today, I just wanted to touch on some key metrics that we had during the holidays. For the first bullet point, you're going to see that our growth was down, but that was comparing last year when video sales were turned off. So Scratch kind of became the game of choice at that period. Although we are down, we were still above forecast. For our holiday Scratch It sales, we had some really awesome weeks. When we look at the week of Christmas, that over $6 million sales week actually put us, in terms of sales over 2020, it was 33% over that time period. It was 11% behind last year's sales, but again, last year's sales were kind of an anomaly. We also saw that the month of December put us at our second highest December sales record. And as I think I've reported probably for the last few quarters that we've met, that our $20 games are performing well. So our holiday 20 was no exception to that. And it gave us sales of just over 3 million, while our other holiday game sales that ranged from just under 2 million to just over 2.5 million. And again, we have 5 of these holiday games that are out during this October through December sales period. The last bullet really talks about grocery stores and how they continue to generate such a large number of sales for us. And really, again, I want to do a shout out to our sales teams, our field teams, because without their help, this was the first year that we utilized Aurora's Order Wizard product. So there was a lot of new learnings, key learnings that we've got from that, but that team, as well as our order specialist teams, really played a key role in getting product and pick and pack. Can't forget that team in the warehouse. They did a lot of work shipping. One thing before we move on, I wanted to mention that next month we're going to be launching a Just For You scratch ticket. And this ticket really focuses on gift giving and product marketing, digital marketing, and our product team. We got together and really wanted to think about another opportunity for a season of gifting, because right now we don't have a product out there for people to pick up for Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays. And so this ticket is going to be out in the market for about a year that has a gift giving theme. And the unique part of this is it's going to have an 82% payout, which is higher than our normal $2 ticket. That payout generally is at 63%. And the top prize is lower, but it's at a $500. And what we really wanted to do, because it is a gifting ticket, to really have some wins in there for the customer. So are there any questions on the info that I shared here?
Well, for me, it looks like the holiday Scratch It sales really helped a lot and did it for us.
Yeah, they did. All right, Kathy, can you move to the next slide, please? Keno, not a whole lot, here to share. Again, sales are moving along nice and steady, especially as we were able to get bars and taverns back online. People were purchasing at Keno. A couple of highlights here for this last quarter. We had a couple of pretty good size 8-spot jackpots in October, actually. So one was over almost $81,000 on the 21st of October, and then just by the 30th of October, another one came in at just under 73,000. Any questions for Keno? Okay, and then the last thing is really our jackpot games, and as most everybody knows, those are really driven, sales are really driven by how high those jackpots can get. Our Powerball jackpot really is kind of driving what the sales were, but I happily can say currently our Mega Millions jackpot is pretty big. You can see here that the top jackpots in Q2 were pretty high. Currently, our Mega Millions jackpot is over it's at 421 million. Megabucks is at 8.9, so that's a good sized jackpot. And then of course Powerball was hit in the first part of this month, and so it's starting to grow again, and it's at 104. So nothing unusual to report there. So any questions? All right, turn it over to Sar.
Thanks, Tina. Chair Safoff, Commissioners, Director Pack, good morning. For the record, my name is Sar Richards. I am the manager of the video gaming products, and it is my pleasure to present the Video Lottery Quarterly Performance Update. As you can see from the graph, we reached 300 million again in revenue, which equaled forecast. We are also able to slightly go up on transfers. These numbers represent roughly 102% increase year over year. But again, as everyone knows, that last year we were impacted severely by COVID. All of this growth was supported by 2 game launches, Scarab and Dancing Foo. Both of those games are currently in casinos, which appeals to a lot of our players. Another launch we did, not listed here, it was seasonal, Acorn Pixie, to tie into a promotion that the digital promotions team is doing to help support that. And lastly, I know Tina gave a shout out to Go. I also want to give a shout out to Go. We were able to remove all of the Prodigy View terminals in the field well ahead of schedule, which allowed us to do an update to the system that was badly needed for the end of the calendar year. And I zip through the video presentation. Are there any questions on it?
Just, Sarah, I just want to make sure.
Sure.
The game launches that
Yes.
in Q2, when you
Yes.
say that the actuals, you know, and frankly, thank you. I'm glad we met what our forecast was.
Yes.
But it feels a lot like, and I don't think that's news, but I just want to make sure it's really important that we get these game launches out. It
Yes.
feels like that's what supports, as you said, us being able to meet our forecast. And so on a go forward basis, I want the commission to, we need to focus on that, because you know, a lot of times we're used to meeting our forecast, right? But I think it's, yeah, I think it's important that we all focus on how important these games are, these new games.
Well, absolutely. Looking forward, I mean, we're getting back to our launch schedule. We have content we're preparing right now. Our content definitely is king. It does drive the revenue for the video side. So that's obviously something we're very focused on as a team as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Turn it over to Carrie.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Carrie Hemphill, Sports Betting Product Manager. I am here today to give you the Scoreboard product update for the last quarter. This will be also the final strictly Scoreboard product update that you will receive. That is because, as Director Pack mentioned earlier in this call, we've officially migrated over to the DraftKings Sportsbook platform as of January 18th. This means that as of that date, we've removed all bet placement options from Scoreboard and offered account migration over to the new platform. Players were able to transfer their existing wagering funds and begin placing bets on the new platform, branded as the DraftKings Sportsbook, official provider of the Oregon Lottery. Throughout this transition process, Scoreboard will remain active, but in a scaled down status. The Scoreboard platform is no longer accepting new wagers, but there are still open future wagers on the platform, which will remain and settle there. So I will have follow-up reporting on both platforms for the next quarterly update. Therefore, unlike the visuals in the previous product slides, we've pulled forecast out of this slide because of the DraftKings migration. There are too many near-term unknowns to confidently communicate near-term forecasts. That said, we maintain internal forecasts based on Scoreboard performance and will continue using them until a new baseline becomes established. So now for Q2 specifically, the Scoreboard product saw solid results throughout the quarter with gross gaming revenue of $9.5 million and turnover at over $103 million on a margin of 9.13%. These numbers were the result of over 3 million bets placed in the quarter from almost 35,000 unique active players. It's notable to mention that number of bets, turnover, the unique active player count, and GGR were all the highest on record for Scoreboard for the quarter comparisons. Total turnover for the quarter increased 23.2 million year over year, which is approximately 29%. The increase was most likely caused by the return of a more traditional sports schedule, specifically the start of NBA basketball season in October, as opposed to December of last year. Football and basketball were the primary drivers of business in the quarter, making up of over 71% of total turnover and 75% of GGR. Although football was the top sport, football turnover numbers were flat year over year, which is likely the result of reduced promotions and advertising within Scoreboard over the last couple months in anticipation for the migration to the DraftKings platform. With no fanfare or promotion, the numbers we saw within football and basketball were purely organic, and I think that there was really good momentum leading into the transition. We will be watching closely on how many current players transfer over and continue the momentum in the next few months. And then finally, as mentioned, basketball was the top sport of the quarter with over 35 million in turnover and 2.9 in GGR. Soccer, baseball, ice hockey, all were next in tier of business and performed very well. And the remaining library of sports, including markets such as combat sports of boxing and MMA, gathered a lot of interest. Looking ahead, migration to the DraftKings platform should be exciting with excellent growth opportunities. Our new partnership provides new marketing and promotional focus, along with better and more complete betting functionality, such as the addition of same-game parlays, which were heavily requested by our Scoreboard player base. Sports schedule-wise, we're gearing up for the NFL Super Bowl, which is on February 13th, and I will report back on those results at our next quarterly product update meeting. And that is your Scoreboard product for the quarter. Any questions?
Thanks, Carrie. It looks like it's going in the right direction still.
Yeah, sure is.
I do have a question. Did you encounter any major issues in the transition, or was it really smooth as you move from the customers from one platform to another?
I would consider it smooth. We definitely had those super excited customers that were, well, we had pre-promoted about a week or so in advance to let customer know what was going to happen and expectations, and had throughout kind of a step down process of communications to do that, to really limit questions. There were a few gung-ho players that were on it, down to the wire of the minute of transition. And on transition day, technology-wise, it took a little longer than expected on the 18th to get everything ramped up and running. So it was just a couple hours later, but it occurred on the day as scheduled. We continue to just work through some customer questions on transition of how to get their player funds, moving their account over, or if they choose to withdraw their funds directly out, they're able to do that. And so I would consider it your normal questions and answers that need to be fixed, but nothing out of the norm. It was a smooth transition.
Well, I would say kudos to the team, because that's not an easy thing to do.
Totally agree.
Thank you.
Have we, Kathy or Carrie, are we complete with everything you
Yeah.
wanted to present to us? Great.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's done.
Okay, thanks. With that, I'm going to ask the commission or anyone if there's other business that needs to be taken care of today. Hearing none, this concludes today's meeting of the Oregon State Lottery Commission. The next meeting is scheduled on Friday, February 18, and I want to thank you all for attending. The meeting is adjourned.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you
Meeting
soon,
tomorrow.
someday.